incomes are taxed. Is your 401k money taxed or untaxed? There are so many questions to consider when planning your financial future, and today we're joined by Dylan Bond, a registered investment advisor representative, a licensed insurance professional, and the owner of Bond Financial Services, and he's here to help us plan our future. Dylan, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
It's great to be here.
So let's first talk about the differences between taxed and untaxed. Why are there delineations?
Yeah, I think one of the most overlooked pieces of information that people have when they're saving for retirement throughout their life is trying to create a balance between tax-deferred money and after-tax money and tax-free money. I work predominantly with people that are 50 and older that are basically getting ready to retire in the next 10 to 15 years. And what I've started to see over the last 5 or 10 years is more and more people coming in with 401k plans instead of pension plans. Obviously, companies are moving away from pensions and offering 401k plans. And because of that, I see a lot of people doing all of their retirement savings inside of their 401k plans. So what that ends up creating is when they get close to retirement or at retirement, if they're not careful, they're going to have a big, huge pile of money that's never been taxed that will have to be taxed at ordinary income levels when they take it out. And they have no other monies available that they can get at tax-free or with limited taxes to use for things if the roof were to blow off the house and they need to fix it, or they wanted to buy a car. So I think it's something that people need to be aware of.
And it's very important, too, to know these things, because let's say you think that you have $200,000 to retire with. If you forget that money is going to have taxes taken out of it, you're in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, what I try to get people thinking of, and the sooner you start thinking of it, the better, is if the company's matching you on a 401k contribution, you want that to take advantage of that match, because that's free money to you.
Exactly.
Okay, but once you get to the match and go beyond the match, you really need to decide. If you think 15, 20 years down the road, tax rates are going to be lower or the same, then you can feel comfortable contributing more to the 401ks.
Exactly.
But if you think that tax rates might be higher 15, 20 years down the road, then you have to really think about, do you want to put all that money in tax deferred? And if you get a good rate of return, and let's say 15 years from now you double or even more, increase the values of those accounts, all of that money has now never been taxed, and as you take it out, you have to pay ordinary income tax levels, and the tax bracket system applies.
Well, how do the tax brackets work in terms of your 401k and cashing it out? What if when you start accumulating your money, you're in a lower tax bracket, but when the time comes to take it out, maybe you've amassed a lot of money or you have a higher salary?
Right. The old school of thought was you stuff all your money in your 401k, and through your working years, you'll get a tax deduction. When you retire, you'll walk out and you'll be in a lower tax bracket because you're no longer taking income.
Because your yearly salary is less.
Because your yearly salary is gone now. You're not getting a paycheck, so you can then afford to take more out.
A lower tax bracket, okay.
But if you take into consideration the current economic conditions out there, and the fact that our country right now has a $16 trillion debt,
yes,
we have to, in some way, shape, or form, pay that debt down. And the only way I see that happening is somewhere down the road, I would feel they'd have to potentially raise taxes to do that. And if they do, the other consideration is most people I meet with are going to want more than $25,000 or $30,000 a year to retire with. So if they're going to be taking out $40,000 or $50,000 a year in retirement income, they're already going to put themselves right back into the middle tax bracket. Okay, they're going to be paying somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to potentially 25% federal tax, and then tack on a 5.3% state tax on top of that. It's going to be a big deal, and I think too many people are creating too much pre-tax money and not enough after-tax money or tax-free money.
And I think a lot of people aren't considering, too, that conceivably, if you retire relatively early and you've been making a good living for yourself, you could conceivably go 40 years without having a paycheck. You could live that long in retirement. No question,
and that's an entire story in itself. Most people that are retiring at 60, the statistics are if you're 65 and you're married, you have a 1 in 3 chance of living to 90. And that's most people have a higher propensity to live a little bit longer than that out of a married couple. So you really want to pay attention to that and make sure that what you're doing with your finances, and the sooner you start looking at it, if you can eliminate unnecessary taxes, if you can eliminate unnecessary fees and expenses or unnecessary risk and volatility, and create a plan that makes sense, that can get you in a position where you have more potential to not outlive your money, I think the sooner you start that, the better off you'll be.
Now, Dylan, if people out there, if the information's a little bit over their head, you have seminars, a lot of upcoming seminars to kind of demystify this.
Yeah, you know, the key to my business is meeting and talking to new people.
Exactly.
And my goal is to try to help everybody I talk to. We do seminars. We try to do one every other week or every week at some points of the year.
And you have one coming up tonight, actually.
We actually have one tonight at La Cucina de Hamden House in Hamden. We have a couple of spots available there. It starts at 6 p.m. Anybody that's interested, really it's geared towards people 50 and older that are starting to really think about what to do. Call George at my office. It's 413-754-4747. And there are a couple spots available there, but we also have, in the next couple of weeks, we have some other seminars at Spoletos in East Longmeadow that start at 6 o'clock. And again, call George. The best thing to do is to call George because space is limited, and you do need a reservation to attend. He can give you the details and so forth.
Well, Dylan, thanks so much for coming in, and those seminars sound like fun too. You get dinner and some good conversation.
Yeah, and you know, it's really, it boils down to there's no obligation to attend. We're not going to try to sell anything at that seminar. We're going to talk about basic concepts that I think people 50 and older need to be seriously considering when they're getting ready to retire. And the sooner they start thinking about it, the better off they'll be.
Well, I agree, and thanks again. And you can always visit bondfinancialservices.net or give them a call, 413-754-4747, and let Dylan and his staff take the steps to secure your financial future.